In this video, we will dive into the movie Wicked 2024. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens in the land of Oz, where citizens have learned that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead. Everyone is Magic celebrates. No one wants the Wicked, as Glinda, the Good Witch, played by Ariana Grande, descends to greet everyone and confirm the evil witch is gone. Before Glinda leaves, a young girl asks if it's true that Glinda and the Wicked Witch were once friends. Glinda starts to remember fondly. The witch Elphaba, played by Chris Mossongol, was the daughter of Governor Elphaba Thropp, played by Andy Neyman, and his wife Melina, played by Courtney May Briggs, thought she was conceived from an affair with another man. Elphaba shunned Elphaba after she was born with green skin. After she was raised lovingly by her nurse, Dulcie Bear, as a child, Elphaba was protective of her younger sister, Nesrose, who was born to a wheelchair and born before their mother passed. When some kids start to bully them, Elphaba's anger causes rocks on the ground to rise up and strike the children. Elphaba comes out to scold Elphaba when Nessa starts crying. Glinda's story with Elphaba begins as they both begin to attend the distinguished She's University to learn and practice magic. Glinda or Galinda here quickly befriends Piffany and Shinshin and finds an admirer in a Munchkin named Bok, while Elphaba arrives with Nesros. Everybody quickly mocks Elphaba for her green skin, but she uses sarcasm to put up with it. Glinda makes a public display of trying to help Elphaba, but she tells Glinda off and rejects her offer. The students are gathered as Madame Morable addresses them to start the year. Miss Cuddle starts to wheel Nessa away despite her assurances that she can take care of herself. Elphaba tries to stop Miss Cuddle, which causes her powers to go off and makes several things and people in the area float. And one pinch hits a plaque on the wall. Madame Morrible takes notice of Elphaba's gifts and privately speaks with her. She wants to take Elphaba under her wing so that she may eventually meet and work with the legendary wizards of Oz. Elphaba starts to feel for the first time that things are starting to look up for her. To their dismay, Elphaba and Galinda are put in the same room where they quickly start to hate each other. They attend a class taught by a good professor, Dr. Dilmont. Galinda gives him a hard time for being unable to pronounce the Ga in her name, but Elphaba defends him. During the lesson, Dr. Dilmont finds that someone wrote animals should be seen and not heard on the board, so he dismisses class early in despair. Elphaba stays behind to help him clean up after he spills something. At night, Elphaba overhears Dr. Dilmont meeting with other animals as they discuss how animals in Oz are being subjugated and losing their ability to speak. Dr. Dilmont spots Elphaba and they express his great concerns. Elphaba believes that the wizards can help and fix things. Elphaba later goes out in the woods where she meets the handsome Prince Pharaoh Tiglar, also known as the Winky. While Pharaoh is charming enough, Elphaba tries not to fall for it and comes off as defensive around him. Soon, everyone at Shears learns that Pharaoh is starting to attend the school. Glinda sets her sights on making him her boyfriend, while she also tries to push Bok to talk to Neceros so he can save her alone. Pharaoh organizes a dance at the Aztecs' ballroom, which turns into a big party. Bog ends up dancing with Nisa after he sees Glinda kissing Pharaoh. Elphaba enters wearing a pointy black hat that Glinda and her friends gave her as a mean joke. Elphaba starts to dance by herself while everyone else mock her, putting up a front to hide her emotions, but Galinda and Pharaoh can see through it. Galinda then starts to join Elphaba in the dance and they share an emotional embrace. Elphaba and Galinda now consider themselves friends. Galinda learns that she has gotten a spot at Madame Moribel's sorcery seminar as thanks for setting Bok up with Nessa. As thanks, Galinda gives Elphaba a makeover. The next day, Dr. Dilmont announces that he is leaving Shears since they are no longer allowing talking animal to work there. He is forcibly removed in distress before being replaced by the rotten professor Nick Dick. He starts his lesson by introducing a fractal line cube inside a cage, something he considers a great new invention. Elphaba unwittingly produces a spell that puts everybody except Pharaoh to sleep, and she joins Pharaoh as they sneak the cub out of Shiz and take it into the woods for safety. The two appear to share a moment, but Elphaba doesn't think Pharaoh would ever see her the way he sees Galinda. Days later, Madame Moribel tells Elphaba that the wizard wants to meet her after hearing of how her talents have grown. Galinda prepares to bid Elphaba farewell and also announces that in honor of Dr. Tillman, she will henceforth just be known as Glinda. The train starts to leave, but Elphaba gets Glinda to join her as they head toward the Upland city. Meanwhile, Flexible meets Bok and finds out about his relationship with Nessoros. Upon arriving in the Emerald City, Elphaba and Glinda witness the citizen, which comes from Adina Menzel and Kristen Kenwat putting on a Vizomania show to talk about how great the visit is. Elphaba and Glinda are then brought to meet the wizard himself. He appears charismatic and asks Elphaba if she wishes for him to do something about her green skin, but she says she wants his help with the animal of Oz. Madame Moribel joins the three and guides Elphaba to read from the Gramarye, a powerful spell book. As Elphaba reads an incantation, the monkey god Chistri starts to painfully grow wings on his back. Elphaba then sees the same things happening to all the other monkeys. The wizard and Madame Moribel are delighted at his success as they think the monkeys can make great spices across Oz. Elphaba quickly realizes that the wizard is not only responsible for what is happening to the animals, but he is also a fraud who is incapable of performing magic. She knows they needed someone with actual magic gifts to unlock the Gramarye powers. Elphaba and Glinda flee with Madame Moribel sending the monkeys and other guards to go after them. They are chased through the tower and attempt to escape on a hot air balloon, but their path is blocked and the balloon bursts after they escape. Madame Moribel soon announces to the entire city that Elphaba is now an enemy and a wicked witch. The two make it to the attic where Glinda tries to convince Elphaba to make peace with the wizards and Madame Moribel, but Elphaba refuses. She is set to make her escape and tries to get Glinda to join her, even getting a flying broom to go off. As the guards start to make their way up, Glinda ultimately chases to stay behind but lets Elphaba go. Elphaba crashes through a window with the broom, plummeting all the way down until she sees her own reflection of herself as a child. She reaches out and grabs the broom, then soars high back up into the sky. Her powers casts a power surge across Oz as she declares that the wizard is never going to bring her down. Glinda can only look up in sadness while the rest of Oz now views Elphaba as a villain. She then flies off on her broom and disappears. The movie Wicked 2024, that is the only part 1, and the story is continued now. So, the box office performance of Wicked overtakes Mamma Mia as biggest global Broadway adaptation. Sonic 3 sets franchise record with 74 million international debut. Universal Wick is officially the highest grossing Broadway adaptation in global box office history, overtaking 2008's Mamma Mia to notch the harmonious milestone. Wicked has generated $634 million worldwide after 6 weeks of release, while Mamma Mia amassed 611 million, not adjusted for inflation by the end of its box office run. Wicked starred Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo has earned $424 million domestically and weeks ago surpasses 1978 Grease 188 million as the biggest Broadway adaptation at the domestic box office. These benchmarks are good news for Universal since the second half of the big budget musical Wicked for Good opens in 2025. This record is also notable because it bucks the recent trends of underseen stage-to-screen remakes, including 2023's The Color Purple and 2021's West Side Story, Dear Evan Hansen, and In the Height. Meanwhile, Paramount's The Sonic Hedgehog 3 commented a franchise record with 74 million in its international box office debut, the largest overseas opening in the family-friendly series. This number has been slightly inflated to include previous screenings. However, the 3 days figure still tower about 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which launched with $33 million from abroad markets. The third, Sonic, enjoyed the biggest start in the United Kingdom with $15.1 million, followed by Mexico with $10.3 million and France with $7.3 million. The film opens in 10 additional territories including Korea, Brazil, and Italy next weekend. Sonic 3 opened 9 days earlier in North America, where the animated adventure has generated $137 million to date for a global tally of $211 million. Also new to international screens, Nosferatu collected $3 million from just 5 markets. The R-rated gothic tale, directed by Robert Eggers and starring Bill Skarsgård as Count Overlock, will continue its overseas rollout in the next year. At the domestic box office, Nosferatu landed $21.1 million over the traditional weekend, with $40 million over its first 5 days of release. Focus Features is releasing the film in North America while its parent company Universal is handling the distribution overseas. Despite the newcomers, Disney Mufasa towards our international box office chart with $77 million from 52 material territories. The Lion King prequel seems to be rebounding after a rough start with ticket sale at $214 million internationally at $328 million globally to date. Another Disney holdover, Moana 2 collected $36 million overseas over the weekend, bringing its international tally to $487 million. The animated adventure about a Polynesian wayfinder has amassed $882 million globally and is redying to swing past the $900 million mark. The Moana sequel adds to Disney's impressive year, blasted by the $1 billion of its successor, of Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Wicked becomes top grossing film adaptation of a Broadway musical. Wick just keeps adding to its record setting tally at the box office. As of January 2, it has grossed $648 million worldwide. The musical is likely to keep adding to its tally. To the Oscar nomination due on January 17 and the Oscar telecast set for March 2. Its official Wicked has pulled ahead of Mamma Mia to become the top grossing film based on a Broadway musical. Wicked has grossed $634 million worldwide since its open on November 22. Mamma Mia grossed $611 million worldwide following its release in June 2008. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo stars in Wicked, which has directed by Jon M, whose hit status resumes includes a previous film adaptation of a Broadway musical, the 2021 movie version of Lin-Manuel Miranda's breakout hit In the Heights. 7 film adaptations of Broadway musical appears on Box Office Mojo's list of the top 1000 films in terms of their lifetime worldwide grosses. That counts Mamma Mia, a film adaptation of the 2001 stage musical built around a musical but not its chair featuring sequel Mamma Mia Here We Go Again, on the grounds that the latter was really just a sequel to a hit movie. The sequel did antagonistically well with a worldwide gross of $395 million. Of course, not all sequels are guaranteed to become box office successes. Grease is here, but its 1982 sequel, Grease 2, which grossed just $15 million worldwide, didn't come close. Wicked for Good, briefly referred to by generic title Wicked Part 1, is due for release on November 21, 2025. Will it follow its predecessors to box office glory? If it does, Chu will join Rob Marshall as the only director with 2 films on this list. Marshall directed both Chicago and Into the Woods. You might surprise the both Wicked and Mamma Mia must have won the Tony for Best Musical than they played on Broadway. Actually, neither one did. Wicked lost to Avenue Q in 2004. Mamma Mia lost to Trolley Modern Melly in 2002. Only 2 of the 7 musical-to-film transfers on this list won the Tony for Best Musical when they played on Broadway. Les Miserables won in 1987. Hairspray won in 2003. Of the other 3, Grease lost in 1972 in Two Gentlemen of Verona. Chicago lost in 1976 to A Chorus Line. Into the Woods lost in 1988 to The Phantom of the Opera. Wicked becomes highest grossing film based on a Broadway musicals. So, Wicked is not finished defying gravity at the box office. After more than a month in theaters, the hit film has set a new record as the highest grossing movie based on a Broadway musical ever. The record was previously held by 2008 Mamma Mia, which grossed $611 million at the worldwide box office, according to the Box Office Mojo. Wicked has so far grossed $635 million worldwide per Box Office Mojo. The success of which is a big win for the genre of films based on a stage musicals, many of which have struggled financially in recent years. In 2021, Wicked director Jon M owns In the Heights, based on Lin-Manuel Miranda's stage show, underperformed at the box office. Through its release was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Cats, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story and Dear Evan Hensel also faced to do big business, raising questions about the viability of the musical adaptations in theaters. But Wicked turned things around in the major way to become one of the biggest hit films of the year. It currently stands at the sixth highest grossing movie of 2024, and it is the only film in the top 6 that is not a sequel. As of Tuesday, the 2024 movies that have grossed more than Wicked worldwide are Dune Part 2, Moana 2, Despicable Me 4, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Inside Out 2. In January, the movie version of the Mean Girls musical also performed very well, grossing over $100 million worldwide. It was originally intended to be released directly to streaming. Previous musical adaptations that Wicked has outgrossed includes Les Miserables 442, Grease 396 and Chicago $306 million. On top of cleaning up at the box office, Wicked looks set to have a presence throughout award season. It has 4 nominations at Sunday's Global Golden Globe Awards, including Best Comedy or Musical. The film was also named Best Movie of the Year by the National Board of Review, an honor that typically precedes a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards. Wicked is set to hit streaming platform, but you'll have to ching. Throughout domestic box office total remained down from pre-pandemic times. 2024 has still seen several blockbuster films set new records. Disney Inside Out 2 became the highest grossing animated film of all time. Deadpool and Wolverine became the highest grossing R-rated film, and Moana 2 had the biggest Thanksgiving weekend ever. Heading into 2025, the slate is packed with even more potential blockbusters like Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, and the Fantastic Four First Steps, not to mention the highly anticipated Wicked follow-up, Wicked for Good, which adapts the second half of the Broadway musical hits theater on November 2021. Wicked movie review. We are off to see the witches. With its flying monkeys and magical shows, oh my, the story of the Wizard of the Oz has been locked into the popular imaginations of over a century. It is, after all, an archetypal American myth, anything of good and evil, the comfort of home, the draw of the road, the perils of power, and the yearning for transformation. The 1939 film with Judy Garland in particular is so embedded into the American cinematic DNA that it's inspired everyone from Martin Scorsese to David Lyons, Spike Lee, and John Waters, who once called the Wicked Witch every bad little boy's and girl's dream of notoriety and style. I wonder what waiters will make of Wicked and its green hued, deeply cynical heroine. Elphaba, a ready-made meme machine played by Cynthia Erivo, is what comes a showstopper of a performance. Both the character and the actresses are the strongest draws in his splashy, largely diverting, tonally discordant, and unconsciously long movie, which is the first installment in a two-part adaptation of the Broadway show Wicked that Juggernaut opened at the Gershwin Theatre in 2003 and shows no signs of closing. It will presumably still be ranking in its when Wicked Part 2 is set to open in November 2025. Like the stage musical, Stephen Schwartz wrote the music and lyrics, while Winnie Holzman wrote the book. The movie centers on Elphaba and Glinda, short for Galinda, which is from the enhanced land of Oz. Written by Holzman and Donna Fox, it opens right after Elphaba, aka the Witch of the West, is declared dead. Galinda, aka Glinda, the good flowers, is to belt the catchy "No One Mourns the Witch" and subsequently goes down memory lane to relate her and Elphaba's tale, focusing on their tenure at Shish University, a campus populated by a hard working assembles and enjoyed by a waterfront Disney's esque tutored castle. Wicked is based on Gregory Maguire 1995 novel Wicked, the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West, and the big surprise in each work is that Elphaba is not as bad as her reputation. Hers is a classic saga of misunderstanding, retold for contemporary sensibilities, a chronicle of alienation and belonging, incoherent desire, and heavy handed moralizing that on screen begins in Munchengland, where her father was the governor, her mother was a cheat, and Elphaba the inconvenient result. At some point, her mother dies as they do in fairy tales, and Elphaba grows into a sober, bespectacled child, the color of farm fresh asparagus, and in short order, a serious, very talented melancholic. The director Jon M opens big and only goes bigger at times to a fault. His credits include Krasavich Asians and the musical in the Hearts, but Wicked is a horse of another color and is filled with huge sets, some dozen musical numbers, and many moving parts that generation of fans know intimately from the start. Shu gives Wicked an accelerated space, aiming it with restless, sweeping camera work and overloading it with a surfeit of everything. With ceaselessly moving bodies and eye-popping props, there's a much to owe and over, be it Elphaba's eyeglasses with their seashell spiral or her beautiful Azzy Mayak style plates, but Chew's arrived and maximalism doesn't leave much room to savor it. The movie settled down somewhat once Elphaba and Glinda start warming to each other. They are forced to room together, and their initially hostility begins melting as fast as a witch doused by water. A nerve-testing variations on the dumb blonde clutchy Glinda doesn't make it easy. Grandi throws herself into the role, bringing comedy for Glinda's vociferity and self-regard, but Glinda doesn't have the wit or enough sharp lines to offend the stereotype the way that it's flipped in. Says gentlemen prefer blondes and logly blonde. Instead, Shu and Grandi lean into Glinda's shoulness, hair tossing and show pony flame bouncy sending up the character's vanity even as the camera draws over her trunks overflowing with goodies. Despite its bumps, the movie is constantly amusing simply because it is the visit of Oz and it's fun watching colorful, off filter characters singing, dancing, and sometimes flying through the air without a superhero suit. As the story progresses, a subplot involving Oz talking animals emerges. Peter Dinklage voices Dr. Dillman as Professor, who is also God. Elphaba sets up hierarchically, and Wicked becomes sublet, more delicate and moving. Eravo and Grandi work nicely together from the set go, and chemistry only becoming more persuasive as the comedy gives way to heavier theme and a story about two snapping women steeps into a tale of love, mutual respect, and female friendship. Dorothy had the Scarecrow and Tin Man, and the cowardly Leon, Elphaba, and Glinda have each other. Ariana's performance is crucial part to putting across this transformation and to the movie's overall effect. Rejected by her father and mocked by others, Elphaba struggles with her differences from childhood on, an existential plight that isolates her, effectively encasing her in a metaphoric green bubble. It's one that Erivo makes palpable early on with an air of weariness and a tempered down, at times almost withdrawn physicality that crucially makes a striking contrast with her richly aggressive, invitingly warm singing voice which opens a window onto her inner being. With early on, she races across the field during the Wizards and I. The setting recalls Julie Andrews springing through the sounds of music while the Ike is Elphaba's voice suggests Judy Garland's Dorothy at her most wistful and alone. Although she cared for her sister Nesros, Elphaba emotionally awakens as she is where her magical gifts are encountered by an instructor, and she and Glinda cross up separately to a not particularly charming prince, Pharaoh. The school is also where Elphaba's humanity is finally recognized by her peers, and it what means to be one of the movie's big emotional scenes. Glinda reaches out to her before revelers who moments earlier seems more like a mob calculated for maximum uplifts. It means to be surprising that its most magical moment in the movies, lest charitable viewers may cringe at the sight of Glinda displays of munificence, and they also may wonder if it's just performative self-interest. One of the sustaining joys of the 1939 Visit of Oz, which is as perfect a film as any made in old Hollywood. It is a mixture of narrative simplicity and unforced cinematic brilliance. Like most big studio production, it's also swashed in a sea of white faces that in the film is punctuated only by the crackling, sneering green glory that is Margaret Hamilton's Witch of the West. Her face serves as a marker of her differences, a distinction that may have scared untold children but also thrills others like the young John Waters. In time, all generated other stories, most notably The Wiz, an all black musical adapted for the screen where it was directed by Sidney Lumet with Diana Ross as Dorothy and Michael Jackson as the Scarecrow. The Wicked does not directly address this race, leaving it for viewers to engage with it or not. In his 2003 review in the Times of the original Broadway production, Ben Brantley wrote that the musical wears its political hearts as if it were a slogan button that remains true, given that the movie ends where the show's first act does. It's impossible to know well for those who have not seen the show how the subplot about Oz, an aggravated animal, will develop, what will become of Elpha's desire to aid their cause, and whether this vision of a multiracial, multi-ethnic world over the rainbow will remain intact a year from now. There's so much at stake and the future doesn't look bright, but I hope that Elphaba and Glinda preserve. Wicked movie review. So, the Wicked does not justify gravity, it defies some incredibly high expectations too. As a massive fan of Stephen Sequard and Winnie Holzman Tony winning original story for The Witches of Oz, I was wary of any attempt to turn the stage show into a film. But Crazy Rich Asians in the high director Jon M. Chu unwinds wicked and Tomadius insight into what I and other fans love about it in the first place. As the future Good Witch of the South and Wicked Witch of the West, respectively, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo deliver masterful and passionate performances that make them the perfect Elphaba and Galinda for this generation of musical fans. No small feats for roles originated by Broadway legend Kristen Chovit and Adriana Menzel. Early glimpses of the film raised fears and it's plagued by the same visual effects problem as so many other modern day blockbusters, but Wicked is as tactile on the screen as it is on the stage. I can assure you the halls and dorms occupied by Elphaba, Galinda, and their classmates at Shields University are not flat. Lifelike CGI creations, the intricately designed sets elevate the choreography of each musical number and are used to great effect in comedic songs like popular dancing through life triumphantly translates the joy of seeing Vict live. Dancer performs acrobatic in rotating circular bookshelves. Jonathan Polly, who I swear has chemistry with every single person on the planet, taps his way across books with a flippancy perfectly suited to the charismatic Prince Pharaoh, and the ensembles works and sign in harmony. Early on, The Wizard and I was the first song to prove to me Erivo, with her expressive performance and vocal powers, was the perfect Elphaba. In the same way, Dancing Through Life, exuberant choreography marked the moment where I set to go on this movie gets it. In true musical fashion, the big ensemble numbers are where Wicked is at its best. Choreographer Christopher Scott Brantley praised to the remarkable production design for Nathan Crowley, particularly during the Maximalist one shot day. Chu has always excelled at capturing cinematic opulence, so it makes sense that he'd be able to combine all of these elements into something so lively. The aforementioned popular in which Glinda counsels Elphaba on how to slay Archies deserves a highlight too. Its frothy, frilly, and of course very pink playground truly unites the characters and reminds the audience of a and probably of their first friendship. Grandi displays incredible mastery of her body as she performs precious physical comedy amid the laugh and truly it's one of her biggest strengths as Glinda, who has always been a thoroughly funny character. From her light delivery to the delightfully bewildering way she tosses her hair, she constantly reminded me, I mean, this as the highest possible compliment of a Muppet. Grandi brings a Zionist to Glinda that makes the character. She applies her operative vibro to the most ridiculous layers and dominates the screen with all the aura one might expect for a global pop stars. There's an offer scenes to her performance, and she cries herself with elegance and outlandish at all once. It never distracts from the more emotional performances, particularly when the mood of the film drastically shifts in the third act, and she never overpowers Erivo. The two centuries like they were born for it, their genuine connection heightening the emotional stakes of the final minutes of the film. This is where we should note that Fict covers only the first act of the musical, part 2, and everything that comes after the arithmetic defying gravity will hit theaters next year. Arrivo is reserved but never fades into the background, where Grandi is mysterious without ever taking up too much space. Victor only works if your Elphaba and Glinda find that delicate balance, and it's immediately clear in their first scenes together that Chu and company certainly knew that. Their vocals are unsurprisingly incredible, but it's the quiet moment they share too that carry as much weight. Honestly, it's difficult to be coherent about just how much these two made me feel, but I can say I can begin and ended the movie in tears. As Elphaba, Cynthia Erivo is a true revelation. I was in awe of the artistry she brings to one of the most iconic characters in musical theater history. I knew she'd be good, but I was not prepared for just how good. Snippets of her redemption of defying gravity have leaked here and there, but nothing compares to hearing it in the theater for the first time. It's enrapturing, a hymn at the altar of resistance, resistance to doubt, to shame, to what other wants you to be. It's hard not to hear defying gravity and everything it stands for as a relying carry at a time of rising bigotry that target women, white people, trans people, and people of color. That's not to say one knockout performance from Erivo will save it, but there is a smallest of comfort in watching her deliver the song like a roar, giving us as an Elphaba who will accept the droppings of villainy if it means doing the good moral things. Not everything works visually in Wicked, the animal character fall into a CGI traps of charts, hailing from the same uncanny valley as the character of Disney's live-action remake of The Jungle Book and The Lion King. On stage, character like the professional god Dr. Diamond are costumed as human animal hybrids, including the flying monkeys who are as unsettling now as they were when terrorizing Dorothy and friends in 1939. The Wizard of Oz, rendering the wizard's true plan even more horrifying, considering Wicked sadly very present allegory of state sections discrimination. It would have been interesting to opt for more humanoid character design. Colors also feels oddly washed out in moments that she's country art falls victim to this gorgeous but not quite giving that colorful fantasticality one would accept from an Austrian university. Despite all its strange dancing through life suffers from this too. The number is constructed of two distinctive halls at Shiz and at a club called the Oz Dust Ballroom. And one imagines purposeful contrast to the intensely saturated Oz dust. The Shiz library is much more subdued. However, there are moments where character Grandi and her pink pastels specifically blend into their surrounding in a way that doesn't seem all that intention. There bitch too much light from the windows, not quite enough contrast within the set. The Emerald City does not have this problem through, nor do specific areas of ships like Glinda and Elphaba's bedroom or the office of headmistress Madame Moribel. Beyond these relatively minor flaws, Wicked is a truly faithful adaptation of a beloved musical, and the film has a couple of surprises up its sleeve, including one particular cameo that caught my audience cheering. It's a long film, setting as roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it never drags. Holzman's book, which she adapted off the screen with Corolla's co-writer Dana Fox, is just as powerful in the hands of this cast and mercifully too does justice to Sekwarza's resplendent music and lyrics. The sound mixing mean the cleverly constructed wordplay in his Ward sings clear, never too overpowered by ostration or middle during massive musical numbers. The cast voices are crisp, their emotion strikes to its clear chew and over to take immense care to honor Wicked, and as a longtime fan, I am grateful he did, considering how strangely the mood changes in the setting act of the stage show, which was see a bit of air. I do wonder just how he will follow up. Wicked is a long film, but it never drags. Grandi and Vero Thaw are who I keep coming back to. They are a Glinda and Elphaba I'll continue to think about, and I already know Arawa's defying gravity will be on my rotation as often as Manzel's. Not to be cliche, but if Wick is the sun, I am the comet pulled from orbit, and watching this adaptation has definitely changed me for good. Wicked is a well-oiled machine in the hands of Jon M. This film adaptation epitomizes that what modern movie musical can and should be, embracing its source material by cleverly translating it to screen. Tearing, jerking performance by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo makes the movie playing to their individual strengths to bring to life the rapport between Glinda and Elphaba, who will go on to become the good and wicked witches of Oz fame. If as many people love this film as much as I did, Wicked will undoubtedly immortalize the Grandi and Erivo in movie musical history. Wicked 2024 movie review. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande make the magic happen. There's some kind of magic afoot if, like me, you are one of the very few people who has not already seen the blockbuster stage musical Wicked. It's the second highest grossing Broadway show of all time, so that's an awful lot of boom on sets. You may approach this shiny, high energy relentlessly marketed movie adaptation with low to modern expectation. There's an unlikely running time for a start 2 hours and 40 minutes, and the Canical box office growing decision to carve the story into two films. Fans will have to wait almost a year to the day before they get to watch the concluding chapter. But here's the thing: reservations are soon extinguished, and grumbles about the release stretch is swiftly quashed. Vic Mattis is polished, wrestle with real heart, driven by knockout performance from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Jon M choose impossibly slick charm assaulted of an adaptation zip along so enjoyable that you almost wish it were longer. Jubilated may disagree with its too timely theme of playing corrupted leader and the demonstration of different. This is a movie that promises a froth of pink and green escapism but delivers considerably more in the way of depth and darkness. For those who have somehow avoided with cultural reach over the past couple of decades, here's a brief primer. The film and the stage show are both loosely based on Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, which offers an alternative backstory of the Wicked Witch from the Wizard of Oz. This film focuses on Wicked early years and two young witches to be green-skinned outcast Elphaba and will go on to become the Wicked Witch of the West and the vain popular Galinda and will eventually blossom into Glinda the Good. Both Elphaba and Glinda are newly arrived at Schwartz University, think the student politics of Mean Girls North Shore High and the curriculum of Hogwarts. Although not enrolled as a student, Elphaba is on site to help her paraphilic younger sister, Nesseros, but the formidable teacher Madame Morrible, a hugely fabulous Michelle Jo breezing over any vocal limitations in a cloud of intimidating glamours, sparks potential in Elphaba and offer her one-to-one tutoring in the art of enhancement. To the mutual disgust of both girls, Elphaba and Glinda find themselves assigned as roomies. Granny has a vocal range so extensive that some of it is the only audible to both, and she uses every last note of it here. It's not just their personalities that clash. The film Colored Blind is at first at battleground between the calorific green of Elphaba's skin and the candy floss pink of Galinda's wardrobe. But visuals that initially seem jarring start to find harmony as the movie progresses. A scene in a forest full of mossy tuft of vegetation and garlands of delicate rosy blooms is lushy and lovely, one of several notably triumphed for the production design department led by Nathan Crowley, whose credits include the similarly Avish Wonka. Likewise, Elphaba and Glinda warm to each other and a genuine connection is forged between them. Both lead actors impresses. Erivo is terrific, her rich, velvety voice cracking under the weight of rejections and ridiculous suffers by Elphaba, her eyes showing the bruises that her skin cannot. And Grandi is supremely well cast. It's not just the voice, that singer has a vocal range so extensive that some of it is only audible to beat, and she uses every last note of it here. But more crucial is a gift for physical comedy. Each flauncy hair tossed, each disty heel kick is a precision taught punchline. Elsewhere, brightens Jonathan Bailey as the shallow and self-absorbed Prince Pharaoh ships way with every one of his scene, in particular a design complex song and dance sequence in the college library. Kudos to the choreographer Christopher Scott for dreaming it all up and to cinematographer Alice Brooks for capturing the book. Does it all work? There are moments that get too caught up in their own world of CGI, planetary, and empty spectacle. And certainly some scenes could be tightened up a little. It's worth nothing that the running time of this film installment is longer than the stage vision in its entirety. But for the most part, Vic the movie takes flights and lifts our hearts along with it. We are caught in the slipstream of Elphaba and her nobly and uncomfortable looking broomstick as she whooshes off into the second half of the story. The movie Wicked that is released in 2024. So let's review the movie. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande defy gravity in jaw-dropping musical adaptation. A little over a year ago, I sat in the Greenwich Theatre here in New York City, dresses in green, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Wicked. It was only my second time seeing it live through considering all the times I have run through the soundtrack in my head. The numbers could almost be much higher. To say I love this musical is an understatement, so I had some very high expectation for the long awaited movie adaptation. Finally brought to the big screen by director Jon M in the Heights Crazy Rich Asians. I kept saying one thing is the lead up to saying that this movie I needed to feel the same way I did sitting in the Gershwin. To feel excited chill rushed through me at the second of those booming opening notes. Well, that's exactly what happened. After a lot of uncertainty, I am happy to report that Wicked is a worthy screen adaptation of the iconic Wizards of Oz prequel. I have my quibbles with a few things, sure, but this is the kind of epic cinematic musical that we very much deserve. Cynthia Erivo is perfect as Vic's Elphaba. To begin with, it's important to remind everyone of an important detail most of the marketing has left out. Vict as its release this Friday is actually Vict Part 1, clocking in at 2 hours and 40 minutes. It is only 5 minutes shorter than the entire stage production, yet only comprises the events and songs of Act 1. One would think that as a result, the movie will be chock full of new additions to the plot, perhaps drawing from the original novel by Gregory Maguire. In actuality, Wicked is a near perfect adaptation of the musical. Instead of adding new elements. Screenwriters Winnie Holzman, who wrote the original book for the stage, the Dana Fox, let the story breathe, taking their time with each scene and song. Wit begin in the same fashion as the stage musical, albeit with an exciting twist that sets the stage for what's to come in part 2. Glinda, the bubbly good witch of Oz, confirmed the death of the so-called wicked witch of the West, in igniting celebration across Munchkland that Glinda herself seems happy to partake in. Grandi needs Glinda politely, mannerism and earnest charms throughout the whole film, showing off her range to an impressive extent. Of course, there's far more to the story here, and Vic soon goes back in time to when Glinda first met and eventually befriended the future enemy of Oz at school. Chu took this time teasing the arrival of adult Elphaba, giving tantalizing glimpses at her before she fully steps into view among the new students of Shiz University. From the moment the first appears on screen, Erivo takes full command of the role, imbuing Elphaba with steel and hope. Often faced with ridicules and derisions because of her green skin, Elphaba has no choice but to be tough when dealing with others, as shown in her first scene with Galinda, originally known as Galinda, and other students. However, when alone for her first song, the show stopping the wizard and I, Erivo lets Elphaba's mask drop and invite us into her enormous throat and feelings. It's exhilarating to watch with that song in particular, generating actual applause at my screening. Elphaba and Galinda's relationship is Vic's biggest strength. Elphaba has magic and the sheer depth of her power attract the attention of Shizmete Moribel who swiftly takes the new student under her wing with promises of one day meeting the infamous Wizards of Oz. As Elphaba works on mastering her powers and clashes with her reluctant roommate Glinda, a darker problem involving Oz's taking animal is brewing. The animal storyline, most prominently shown throughout the character of Dr. Tillman, has always been one of the weaker aspects of Vic's story, and that remains true here. Through Elphaba's empathy for the animal sprite is given a more prominent focus, the plot thread still doesn't mix as well with the more compelling element such as Elphaba and Glinda's relationship. That relationship is Vic's beating heart and Arivo and Grandi bring it to the life with the palpable chemistry that coursed through the whole film. This is best shown in the key moment during the standout musical sequence, Dancing Through Life, with the sheer students' body gather for a dance intricated by charming newcomers Pharaoh and incredibly dashing Jonathan Bailey. Elphaba arrives in her trademark painted hat only to be laughed at by everyone around her. Aravo keeps her head held high even as tears glimmer in her eyes in a defiant stand that took my breath away when Granda's Glinda joined her. I became fully sold on the love between these two women. Vic goes out on a high note. There was much uncertainty about how Vic's visual would ultimately hold up, and Third occasionally suffers from CGI falseness. There's a little question that Chew Ponce's imagination has served the movie incredibly well, giving way to dazzling sets and costumes. Vic is a project bursting with wonder and whimsy, something said delightfully to see on the big screen. The only downside to the striking visuals has less to do with the movie itself and more with the marketing. Some of the most important moments in the whole thing have already been revealed in trailers. But never fail, I still found myself feeling like I too could defy gravity by the end of it. So entranced was I by the music and production design and the performance. That doesn't dampen Vic's overall impact, which transported me back to how it felt to watch the show live on Broadway. It all comes to a close with Defying Gravity, arguably the musical most popular song. Composer and lyricist Stephen Schiss previously explained the song is one of the reasons the movie is split in two. Defying Gravity is such a mic drop moment that it needed a pause. I can understand this thought to emphasize the epic song. Chu lets the sequence go on for longer than it needs to, almost at the risk of lessening its impact. But never fear, I still found myself feeling like I too could defy gravity by the end of it, so entranced was I by the music, the production design, and the performances. I could go on for a lot longer about all my little throat. What else would you expect from a huge fan like me? But I'll give you what this. If you love the original musical, you'll have a likely great time with the version too. Wick release in theater on Friday, November 22. The razzle dazzle that Jon M. Q's bread and butter is on glorious display is Wicked, the big screen version of the beloved Broadway musical. When it's all about the spectacle of big splashy production number, this prequel to The Wizard of Oz is thrilling whether you are in Munchland, the Emerald City, or the campus of Shiz University, where a young witch of the West and Glinda, the good witch of the North, fast across paths. As we have seen from the Doctor's previous films, including Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, Chu is uniquely adept at presenting an enormous song and dance extravaganza without getting lost in this. His sense of pacing and perspective draws us in the center as within the swinging fantasy. It helps greatly that he has deeply talented stars as Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, magnetic multi happiness who can meet every physical and emotional challenge of these iconic characters. For less effective in the way Chu working for a script by Winnie Holzman and Donna Fox based on the novel by Gregory Maguire wake in the movie heavier theme of anthracism. Yes, they are backed into the story we know for watching 1939 The Wizard of Oz countless times that the wizard is an con artist who rolls the fear. His deception is literally one of smoke and mirrors that's all in the source material of the wicked stage production as well for which Holzman wrote the book and Stephen Schwartz wrote the musical and lyrics. Here in film for the tone swings awkwardly between unbeat wonder and dark operations. This is a world in which minorities are haunted, placed in cages, and prevented from speaking. Where a charismatic leader, a playfully evil chef, Goldblum pursues a woman of color, it is not substance and it feels all too relevant to our times, despite originating decades ago. It also drags down the energy of this epic tale. And yet, overstuffs as the film is set 2 hours and 40 minutes. This is only part 1, Wicked ends where the intermission occurs in the stage show, which parts 2 coming in November 2025. It's a lot of ask for an audience, still people who love this story and these characters will be delighted and there's much here for people who are not familiar with the musical but are looking for a cinematic escape around the holidays. Wicked begins with Grandis Glinda descending majestically into Montclair to inform her atheistic fans that the rumors are true, the witch really is dead. Then it flashes back to how she and the green-hued Elphaba, the wicked witch first time, became unlikely allies in college. Elphaba has always been bullied and ostracized because of the color of her skin. Glinda or Galinda, as known at the point, is a pretty pampered mean girl who is always gotten her way. Bon Jang is a hoot as one of her loyal. But once they are forced to roam together, they eventually realize to their surprises that they generally see each other in a way no one ever have before. Glinda's makeover anything popular, one of the most popular songs from the show, is among the film's highlight and a great example of the technical powers Vict offers. The costume design from Paul Tenswell and protection design from longtime Christopher Nolan collaborator Nathan Crowley are executed throughout the specialty here. Alice Brooks' cinematography is consistently worn out, but her use of hard-pink lighting as Glinda's at the height of her power is really evocative. Choose visual choreographer Christopher Scott delivers again with vibrant, inspired moves, particularly in the elaborate dancing through life, which take place in the school's rotating multi-novel library. Brighton star Jonathan Bailey gets a chance to show off his musical theatre background here, and he is terrifically charming as the glib Prince Pharaoh, the object of both Elphaba and Glinda's romantic interest. Miguel Zhao brings elegance and just a hint of danger to her role as Madame Morrible, the university's sorcery professor. And Peter Dinklage gravitates as the resonant voice of Dr. Dillman, a board instructor who, like other talking animals in Oz, finds himself increasingly in peril. But it's that connection between Erivo and Grandi that takes the film its emotional heft. Aribo does too much with her hives to convey Elphaba's sadness and loneliness, and eventually her hope and determination. There are direction about her screen presence that intermediate and engaging. And of course, she can sing the hell out of these demanding songs. Grady meets her note for note, and once again displayed her comic shock. But it's the little choice that make her portrayal of the perfect Galinda feels human, a jerky porkiness that's slightly dorky. The blonde tresses and array of pink dresses scream confident, but deep down she is a try-hard whose desire to be liked in her driving motivations. As undoubtedly crowd pleasing as Vict is, it big moments, those smaller and more intimate details are just as magical. Vict 2024 movie spectacle cinematic triumph. Wicked first landed on Broadway on June 10, 2003, 8 years after the publication of the Gregory Maguire novel of the same name. The novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West is, of course, based on L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and its 1939 Hollywood adaptations. This is a story with deep roots in American popular culture, stretching back over 100 years to a time when a shallow brick road was actually a metaphor for the gold standard. John Chu's film adaptation of the stage play lives up to everything that came before, perfectly capturing the magic of the Broadway musical while deepening and enriching the story in a new medium. I am often dismayed by adaptations, too many of which decide to take the original work and change it for no good reason, either to convey a message not including the original source material or simply because, for too often, they believe they can tell a better story by fundamentally altering the work. There are changes in which, but they are all in service of adapting a stage production to the big screen. We not only get more scenes to establish Elphaba's backstory and fleshes out the world of Oz and Shift University, but also more action set pieces that would simply not be possible on a stage. Songs that were once confined to a theater can now be sung in sweeping fields or magical forests. Elphaba is no longer bound to impressive stage flight tricks. Now she soars above the towering green spires of the Emerald City, her black cloak blowing in the sunset sky. There is one new musical segment which takes place when our heroes arrive in the Ambulance City and which serves largely as exposition through fun exposition about the history of Oz, the magical Kimberly, and a prophecy that reconstructualize Elphaba's role in all of this and set the stage for her meeting soon after with the wizard himself, played by a punkish Jeff Goldblum. I should note that Pick the musical makes enormous changes to Miss Schwartz's novel. They can and probably should be considered almost entirely different works, and while the bones of the story remain the same, there are massive changes to the ending, to the body of some character, and so forth, not to mention all the songs. Everything about Wicked is a triumph of cinema from its faithfulness to the musical to its gorgeous and creative sets, costume, and special effect. Oz comes to life in a way we have never seen it before, a colorful steampunk fantasy world bringing with magic and possibility and done there. But it's a brilliant performance that really elevates the film. Cynthia Erivo plays Elphaba, an outcast from Munchland who was born green. Her life has been hard, and when she arrives at Shift University, originally just to keep an eye on her younger sister Nessa Ross, but quickly embraced by the surgery professor Madame Morrible, she quickly learns that some things never change. She becomes roommate and bitter rivals with Glinda, a rich, beautiful, and very popular young Ozin played by Ariana Grande. The relationship between those two women is the narrative backbone of the film, and the movie could not have picked better actors to play these parts. Fans were questions of Grande casting when it was announced. She is, of course, known mostly as a pop star and singer, but she absolutely nails Galinda from her ridiculous hair tossing to her morsorial self-obsessed personality flickering between a vapid and shallow interior to a deeper, more empathetic side she keeps hidden from the world. Erivo, meanwhile, captures Elphaba's personality down to the last details. She is definite and defensive but also emotionally raw, a young woman who has been spurned by everyone, including her father, but somehow carries on alone, wishing proudly for a happy ending while never expecting to find one. And both these women can sing. There have been some errors in Hollywood casting choices the past when it comes to big Broadway adaptations. Not so here, every moment the character is singing in wigs delightful. I was absolutely blown away by every song. Of course, there are most memorable ones like Popular and Defying Gravity, the latter serving as the end of the first act on Broadway, and A Rush to the Bathroom and the Bar Art Intermission. And the final number here before to be continued props up on screen, which a much longer intermission before the second film release. But the other numbers are also great fun. The Wizard and I gives us our first real glimpses are just how powerful Erevo's singing cops are while taking us on a tour of Shiz and the surrounding aprons. What is this feeling? Perfectly establishes the budding revelry and watching the two women feel for one another, dancing through life as one of the most creative set pieces in the entire film in the Shiz library, and serves as an important turning point in Elphaba and Galinda's relationship, with Unseen in particular really expanding on the musical version in ways that only film can really achieve. You just cannot do close up in a stage production. The rest of the cast is brilliant as well. Jonathan Bailey is charming as a rather athletic pharaoh whose variable is deliciously perspective. The list goes on. The film is also littered with cameos, both great and small, all of which are nice homage to the people who have made it such a Broadway sensation over the past 2 plus decades. And expanding one shot gives us not just the stage production original stars, Adina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth with pretty big signing parts, but also composer Stephen Smith is one of the guards, Arthur Gregory Scott as another guard, scriptwriter Winnie, Holzman as a woman who exclaims he must be a wizard, and many more, including other actors who played the leads over the years. I actually just went to the Broadway musical earlier this summer. I'd seen it off Broadway many years ago, so it was fresh in my mind when I went to the film. I am pleased to report that the movie captured the magic of the musical almost perfectly while adding its very own musical along the way. I often complain about how long films are, but even at 2 hours and 40 minutes, I was never once bored or restless, eager for it to be over. I am also glad they chose to split the film's two act into two movies. At first, the sounded like a cynical Hollywood decision to make more money, but after watching, I cannot imagine it any other way, even if they had made this a 3.5 hour long film. It would have been far too rushed. Instead, we got a well placed, lovingly crafted movie that gives audience a reason to go to the movie theater in a world where increasingly there is no longer the case. The Sunday afternoon show I went to was sold out. Audience were clearly delighted through I missed the clapping that accompanies a live show after each number. Wicked is a stunning success is just about every way from its stellar performances to its sound design and special effects to its intensive sets and costume and ability to capture what made the Broadway musical so special in the first place, defying both gravity and my expectations at every turn. Go see it on the biggest screen you can find. It's the most fun I have had at the movies all years. The movie Wicked is enhancing as it is exhausting. Jon M has made one of the great musical of our time, a pathological coming of age journey into a land of wide-eyed enhancement, wild dance moves, and colorful magic bubbles. That movie was called Setup 3D and it came out in 2010. Through dismissed by critics at the time, that dance of sequel feels more like a masterpiece, with each passing year an early demonstration of its director ability to spin new words through movement and mood. These talents also serves too well with his pandemic Hubble 2021 adaptation of In the Heights. There, the rough-edged musical numbers blending realism with reverie gave the art to the immigrant community of Washington Heights a trembled down poignancies. Choose latest Vict is pretty good too, through one misses the sheer attack of his previous work. A massive, some might say swollen spectacle, it clears the long running hit Broadway musical in two, with the movie's final coming at the sole act break of the play. Act 2 outstage is quite a bit shorter than Act 1, as so one expects Vict Part 2 will require new numbers and plot thread to watch the heft of the first half. It would be quite a feat. This Vict is huge in every possible way. Fans of the show will likely adore it, but it only sporadically achieves the dominant energy that marks Chu's best work and that makes the greatest modern movie musical sing. Despite being a lot longer, the film is ruthlessly faithful to the play. It opens with all of us celebrating the liquidation of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, who will eventually be played by Cynthia Erivo. That's pretty much where the original Wizard of Oz left matters. But soon, Ariana Grande's Glinda, the good Elphaba presumes mortal enemy, floats down in her pink bubble to recount the story of how she and the witch knew each other back when they were young students at Shears University. Glinda is reluctant to speak at first. The walls of Oz villagers are festooned with anti-witch propaganda. She is watching you, blows one poster featuring a snipester picture of Elphaba, and why Glinda's tale is made to answer the question. Why does wickedness happen? What it's ultimately revealed is that Elphaba was not wicked at all, that she was just a girl who was rejected by those around her because of her green skin, and that there was more to her war against the power that be in the Oz that was allowed to meet the eye. Gregory Maguire 1995 novel on which the show is loosely based was written in the wake of the First Gulf War, and the author has said he was partly inspired by Western press reports repeatedly comparing Saddam Hussein to Adolf Hitler as a justification for invading Iraq. At the same time, the book goes to great length to show Oz's gradual decline into fascism as the hand of our old friend the Wizard. The state version, which premiered in 2003, in turn seems to reflect the racism in the air amid the aftermath of 9/11 and the ramp up to the Iraq War. The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy, is a line from both the film and the play. I suspect this new movie will itself resonate in new ways. The allegory of it is both blunt enough and weak enough that we can adapt into any psycho political environment we want. That's not a knock. Several masterpieces by George overall a clear influence on Maguire book have made the same fate over the years. And both L. Frank Baum's original novel of The Wizard of Oz and the classic 1939 film have faced many interpretations since time immemorial, including a charmingly persistent theory that Baum's real aim was to attack turn of the country American monetary diplomacy. In other words, the tension between dark metaphor and the sicky sweet fantasy of Oz has always been there. It's easy to see why the word over the rainbow is just too surreal and strange to ever be taken at face value. It's got to mean something, perhaps. That's why Chu has not tried to give this movie Oz any genuine reality or weight. Even as his camera swoops through the skies, skims across rivers or changes through villages, it all feels like pleasant inconsequential background noise, anybody accepting you to breathe life into OZ the way Peter Jackson did the Middle Earth in the Lord of the Rings epic will surely be disappointed. For all its ambition and cinematic Paradox's Vict doesn't feel like it's been opened up that much from the source, maybe because the play is already huge and popping. Eye popping. So much of the show consists of speech, tours, grand exposition, people speaking and singing to and with larger crowds that make some originatic scene in stage production. But it can be wearing when translated to film, reinforcing the sense of overreaching allegory. The population of OZ is basically a black maze of imbeciles easily manipulated and flick into a fault. They are all chorus all the time. Meanwhile, we keep waiting for the main character to show some delicacy of emotion, something subtle and human, something to make us care of them beyond their status as iconic as symbolic. When things do occasionally quiet down, the actor shine with her pagoda roof eyelashes and her quicksilver physicality. Grande gives real comic shape to Galinda's popular girl favority. She also pokes fun at her own traffic vocal range, tossing errant high notes into simple statements like I already have a private suit. Erivo arguably has the darker taste. Elphaba is the one who goes for rejection and sadness to love and stancy and family rake. Here is not a particularly nuanced performance, but this is not a particularly nuanced character. Elphaba's melancholy is as much part of the big spectacle as are the armies of flying monkeys or the swirling shots of the Emerald City. And one of the film's biggest moments is also its quietest when she finds herself ostracized as a school party because of the soon to be familiar black hat Glinda has made her wear. Elphaba creates her own rhythmic dance movement without any music for accompaniment. On stage, it's a relatively quick bit played as a prelude to the two protagonists staring to get closer. Here, it's the movie's emotional high point as Chu and Erivo turn Elphaba's glory from an expression of defeat into one of defiance, thus laying the groundwork for her eventual transformation. I will admit I would have enjoyed Vic a lot more if I were a bigger fan of the songs, but aside from a couple of high points such as the immortal anthem of rebellion defying gravity that ubiquitous teeny fan pop Broadway beat turns me off instantly. Luckily, the song don't need any blessing. They have endured long enough that the studio has planned sing-along screening across the country for later in December. And when Chu does sink this teeth into the number, something wonder can emerge. The film performance of What Is This Thing, a showstopper in which our two heroes expresses their initial loathing of each other, seems to glide effortlessly from late night split screening backwarding to a roll kicking school-wide extravaganza where everything becomes rhythm. Click-clacking, silverware, TV does fingers, stomping feet, rolling chairs, and screeching tables. This is clearly the work of the magnificent madman who made two Step Up movies. Even a magical Cynthia Erivo cannot cast a spell strong enough to save Vict. It's a drag to feel you are being held hostage by someone else's nostalgia. The stage show Wicked is beloved by many. It's been playing on Broadway for 20 years and counting, which means a lot of little girls and other have happily fallen under the poppy-induced spell of Winnie Holzman and Stephen Schwartz musical about the complex original of the not really so bad Wicked Witch of the West. Legions of kids and grown have helped and two-trapped along with numbers like Popular and Defying Gravity on a twinkly stand-up for what it takes to be the most liked girl at school. The other, a peppy improv plot about charting your own course in life. The film adaptation of Wicked, directed by Jon M, starring Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, will increase the material's reach, giving many more people the chance to fall in love with it or not. It's the or nodes who are likely to be the minority, but if you fail to feel the transformative magic of Choose Wicked, there are some good reasons. The movie is so aggressively colorful, so manic is its instantive that it's okay to be different, that it's particularly moves you down, and this is only one part of the saga. The second installment arrives in November 2025. Vic pulls off a distinctive but dismal magic trick. It turns other people's cherished Broadway memories into a protected form of punishment for the rest of us. Vic the movie is jobbled together from many complex moving parts, and some of them work better than others. Grandy plays Glinda, the good witch of Oz, but is she really all the good? The backstory that will consume all 2 hours and 40 minutes of this movie, roughly the same amount of time as the stage musical Throw Again. This is only the first half proves the almost opposite. This is really the story of Elphaba, played by Erivo, who is at the movie's onset reticent young woman with dazzling supernatural powers. The problem is that she has green skin, which makes her a target for mockery and derision and outcast. Elphaba is a reimagining of the character first brought to life by L. Frank Baum in his extraordinary and wonderfully wild 10 of the century Oz books, and later portrayed in the revered 1939 Visit of Oz by Margaret Hamilton. Wicked, whose source material, roughly speaking, is Gregory Maguire 1995 Wicked novel. The life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West is built around the idea that Elphaba was not born bad but was merely forced into making decisions that set her on a path different from that of the infallible goody two shoes Glinda, her enemy turned Fannery turned friend. The story subtext, or rather its glaring bold type, is that we are all shaped by our choices, which are at least partly determined by our response to how others treat us. But you have probably come to Wicked not for its leader life lessons, but for the songs, for the lavish showy sets, for the chance to watch two formidable performers, Perry and Esper. Grandy brings a not unpleasant power room perkiness to the role of Glinda as the movie opens. She is renting Ozel, she is university, an institution whose radically uncool name will forever tarnish sadly the classic and eventually sectological phrase. It's the Shiz is the place where kids come to learn magic spells and stuff. Glinda arrives with a million pink suitcases thinking she is going to be the star pupil. Not so far, Elphaba has also arrived at the school, but not as a student. She is just there to drop off her younger sister, Nessa Rose. Their father, Governor Thropp, has hated Elphaba since the day she was born. Remember, she is green and those different, while doting on Nessa Rose, who is admittedly so kind and lovely that it's impossible not to love her. Elphaba, in fact, adores her, and the fact that she uses a wheelchair make their father all the more overprotective of her. But as Elphaba goes about the business of getting her younger sister settled at Shiz, her fantastical power, they flow from her like electricity, especially when she is angry or frustrated, catch the attention of the school's superstar professor, the chilly, elegant Madame Morrible, played by Michelle Yeoh. Morrible enrolls Elphaba in Shiz University, immediately making her the unwelcome roommate of Galinda, who is at this point named Galinda. For a reason the movie will explain if you are curious or even if you are not. Glinda has no use of Elphaba and goes overboard in making her shared experience unbearable. She relegates her roommate to a small, dark corner of their shared quarters and literally crowd her out with mountains of frappery and furbelows, mostly in vibrant shades of pink. In a pivotal scene, she tries to humiliate Elphaba at a school dance, and then inexplicably soften the two became almost friends. But there's always an undercurrent of competitors. There's Glinda is not half as gifted as Elphaba is, and she is the opposite of down to earth. Grandy has some fun with Glinda's sugary over the top manipulation. She has the fluttery eyelids of a blinking doll and the tawdry elegance of a music box ballerina. But her static becomes wearisome. There's so much winking, twinkling, and nodding in wake that I emerges from is feeling grateful, if only momentarily, for the stark ugliness of reality. There are so many characters, so many plot points, so many metaphors invoked. They are like a traffic buildup of flying monkeys. Jonathan Barry plays a rich, handsome prince who, upon his Harland rival at the school, instantly likes Elphaba but ends up getting steady with Glinda, who practically hypnotizes him into compliance. Jeff Goldblum plays the Wizard of Oz as lanky charmer who might be a jerk at the best and a puppet of fences at worst. Peter Dingland provides the voice of a bleak-eyed Professor Goat at the school, Dr. Dillman. Oz is a community where animals can talk, they are as intelligent as humans, or more so, and they mingle freely in society, but someone in Oz is seeking to stop them at that launching a campaign to silence an animal, and Dr. Dillman becomes their unfortunate victim. Meanwhile, the big message of it, no one is all good or all bad, blinks so assertively that you are not sure what any of it means. Metaphorical truism being around willy-nilly, it's okay, even good to be different. Those who know best will always be the first to be silenced. The popular girl does not always win. It's tempting to interpret Vict as a wise civics lesson, a fable for our times, but its ideas are so slippery, so readily adaptable to even the most blanket political views that they have no real value. Meanwhile, there are as many song and dance numbers as you could wish for, and possibly more. Chew, also the director of Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, both movies are entertaining. Then this one stages them lavishly to the point where your ears and eyeballs wish the he would stop. And yet there's a Erivo. She is the one force in Vict that did not make me feel around down to a nope. As Elphaba, she channels something like real pain rather than just short-on self-pity. You feel for her in the greenish, in her persistent state of being an outsider, in her frustration at being underestimated and unloved. Arrivo nearly rises above the material and not just a broomstick, but not even she is strong enough to counteract the cyclone of entertainment which a typical E swinging around her. For a movie whose chief anthem is an advertising for the joys of defying gravity, Wicked is surprisingly laden with the promise of more of the same to come. The she's is not. Wicked ending explain and how it set up Wicked Part 2. Adapting the Tony-winning Broadway musical Wicked Part 1 tells an epic journey of magic and morality in the world of Oz, leading up to the climactic ending that will bring audience back after Wicked Part 2 in 2025. The movie starts with Glinda the Good announcing to the Munchkins that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead. When they ask about her past relationship with the villain, the movie faces back in the time to Glinda called Galinda at the part of the Wicked movie and Elphaba arriving at Shiz University. Glinda and Elphaba are forced to room together after the latter is unexpectedly admitted to the school as a student of sorcery under the guidance of Madame Moribel. They start out detesting one another. The roommates develop a friendship. Turmoil grows when the talking animals ride are rammed and a lion cube is staged in front of the class, leading to Elphaba and Pharaoh taking action. When Elphaba is invited to visit the Emerald City and the wizard, she brings her friend along. This leads to the action-packed ending which serves as the midpoint for the two-part Wicked movie. Why Elphaba rejected the wizard's offer in Wicked. After the wizard and Madame Moribel trick Elphaba into giving the monkeys wings, she realizes that he never did it himself because he has no powers. He confirms this fact and offers her a home with him in the Emerald City that would give her safety and power if she only works with him. He even says Galinda can stay with him if it will keep her happy. However, she rejects his offer with a righteous indignation and multiple factors play into the decision. Firstly, the knowledge that he never had any power cracks every ounce of respect and admiration she previously had for him. She is less easy to manipulate now that the reverence she once held for the wizard is gone. Additionally, she showed earlier when offered the chance to change her green skin that she cares more about justice for others than she does herself. Her life experience granted her empathy for the talking animals who are deemed different just like she is. To expect the wizard's offer would be to expect their operations. Why does Elphaba go to the west? At the end of Defying Gravity, Elphaba sings the line, "So if you care to find me, look to the western sky." In the Broadway musical, the line is never explained. She does not learn about Kyamoko, Pharaoh's castle, until late into the second act. So that cannot explain her decision. The main explanation fans settled on was the Elphaba chose to go in that direction because of the historical programmatic symbolism of manifest Disney and traveling west for a better life. However, the movie hints at an explanation that fits within the narrative instead of relying on real life knowledge. During one of the middle songs in Wicked, something bad Elphaba intrudes on the animal resistance group which is being held in a room with the map of Oz. This map shows the Retain and Rods connection each area to the Emerald City. The Winkanch, which is in the west, has harsh terrain that seems difficult to navigate, offering Elphaba more protection if she goes in that direction. Additionally, the western party of OZ seems to have the least connection to the Emerald City, meaning the wizard might have the least amount of control there. This is later confirmed again during Sentimental Man when the entire model of Oz light up the road doesn't scratch as far west. Ultimately, neither the movie nor the musical provide a constant answer to this Broadway musical plot hole, but the film at least hint at a reasonable explanation. How Madame Moribel manipulate Elphaba from the start. At the end of Act Part 1, Elphaba asked Madame Moribel whether she planned to use Elphaba from the beginning, and the villain's response and eventually confirmed that she was manipulating the young witch the whole movie. This information retroactively taints all their past interactions, making Madame Moribel's kindness seems more nefarious. The teacher took credit for Elphaba's outburst not because she was trying to help but because she wanted to bolster her image as a powerful magician, making it so the student would respect her more because of her power. She planted the idea early on that Elphaba would need to prove herself to the wizard so that they could ask her later to do the spell on the monkeys, pointing to Madame Moribel's calculated nature. During their first relation, she talks to Elphaba about Dr. Tillman for two big reasons. One, she recognizes that emotions are Elphaba's magical trigger. Two, she is trying to build a false sense of trust and emotional disclosure so that Elphaba will be less resistant to her manipulation later. Later, she let Galinda into her class because she needed to keep Elphaba happy. Ultimately, every single one of Mede's horrible action in Wicked Part 1 served her bigger goal. Why the Ozian worship the wizard? The Wizard of Oz and Wicked, the Broadway musical, both provide small bits of information about why the Ozian worship and follow the leadership of the wizards. However, it's never confirmed how he exactly come to power. Wicked Part 1 changes one short day to include Elphaba and Glinda watching a show about the history of the wizard. The Ocean had previous leader with magic card, the wise ones who could read the grammar and cast spell. However, they all died out over time, leaving behind a prophecy. The wise ones said a powerful person who could read the grammar would one day arrive in Oz when they needed it most. Since the wizards arrived during the Great Drought and could read the grammar, Ocean assumed he was the prophesied individual and began worshipping him. In reality, the prophecy could just as easily apply to Elphaba as it could to the wizard. Dr. Dealman's fighting and how it set up Elphabas to become the Wicked Witch. In a slightly less dark version of the Wicked book storyline, Dr. Dealman is fired from his teaching job at Chase University because he is a speaking animal instead of getting murdered. However, his staying alive doesn't make it any less emotional when he is forcibly dragged out of the classroom by the horns. While Elphaba already cares about justice, this moment is a turning point that sets her on the path to becoming the Wicked Witch of the West. She cannot stand to watch the teacher she bonded with get treated as lesser. From this point forward, her entire arc as Wicked main character centers on ensuring the talking animals are given the same right as the human. She even set aside the opportunity to make her life better so that she can ensure Dr. Dealman and the other talking animals are protected. Can Elphaba see the future in Wicked? In the Wicked musical and movie, Elphaba sings about having a vision of Oz, having a celebration for her, but it's implied that she is speaking figuratively instead of literally. However, the Wicked Part 1 movie draws into question whether she can actually see the future. A few times in the film, Elphaba sees flashes of different moments. In these moments, she sees Dr. Delman in a stage. This could simply be her imagining a terrible future. However, the second hour of the Wicked musical involved the wizard and Madame Morrible talking away Dr. Delman's voice and keeping him captive. Combined with the lyrics in The Wizard and I, these flashes seems to confirm that Elphaba has the ability to see the future, though there's still ambiguity surrounding the question. How Elphaba and Glinda's relationship grounds over time. In both the Wicked musical and Wicked Part 1, Elphaba and Glinda go for lotting one another to being best friends within the short span of time. The movie remains pretty loyal to the source material when it comes to Elphaba and Glinda's friendship. When Glinda gives Elphaba the hate, the latter takes on the genuine act of kindness and return the favor by insisting Madame Morrible take Glinda on as a student. Later details like Glinda giving Elphaba a guidance with a sweet message written inside solidify their relationship. When Glinda finds this way out, she realizes that she is being too cruel to her roommate and publicly engages with her at the party. Later details like Glinda giving Elphaba a guidebook with a sweet message written inside solidify their relationship, making it all the more tragic when they part ways at the end of Wicked Part 1. How Wicked's ending sets up Wicked Part 2. The Wick 2 part movie split at the same point as the Broadway shows after defying gravity at this point in the film and musical. Elphaba refuses to work with the wizard to suppress the talking animal. She decided that if the people in charge will not help, she will break out on her own to protect the vulnerable community. Meanwhile, Madame Morrible tells all of us the Elphaba is evil, hurting the taking animals and trying to destroy the wizard. This sets up a clear pathway for Elphaba in Wicked Part 2 without the need of the Wicked post-credit scene. All of us will be hunting for her while she will be taking action to protect the talking animal. Eventually, Dorothy will arrive in Oz because of a twister setting forth the event of the Wizard of Oz, which plays out in the second half of the musical. The true meaning of the Wicked Part 1's ending. The core question is the Wicked book, musical, and the movie is whether people are born wicked or whether wickedness is created. Across the span of 2 hours and 30 minutes, Wicked Part 1 already answered the villains are made. Elphaba was forced into the role of the Wizard of Oz, antagonized by the true villains of the story, her father, her bullies, Madame Morrible, and the Wizard. Moreover, Wicked Part 1 makes it clear that situations are not always what they seem as first glance. Wicked movie because the big screen adaptation is split into 2 parts. The ending of 2024 Wicked 1 set up the narrative for Wicked Part 2, building anticipation for the second half of the story. When Mark Plant announced the Wicked movie in 2012, fans immediately expresses excitement. The eponymous Broadway musical was released in 2003, gaining 10 Tony nominations and 3 wins. Wicked has continued playing on Broadway and the West End, with the musical having multiple US national tours. Since the movie's announcement, the musical has only continued to increase its fan base. 12 years after the movie announcement, Wicked finally hit the big screen, albeit with a twist rather than a single film. Universal Pictures decided to split the story into 2 parts that would become out in theater 1 year apart. Wicked Part 1 debuted with an almost perfect Rotten Tomatoes audience score, increasing the excitement about the second half of the story. However, some fans might not want to wait a year to learn the rest of the story. Luckily, the Wicked Broadway musical provides answers about that will happen in Wicked Part 2. How Wicked's ending gets up to Wicked 2 story. The first half of the Wicked Part 1 provides foundational information on the main characters, displaying their personalities, backgrounds, and interpersonal relationships. Halfway through the movie, the story shifts toward building the central conflict, the mistreatment of the talking animals as a woman who has been an outsider her whole life. Elphaba is willing to stand by and watch the injustice towards the minority group. When she seeks out the wizard's help at the end of Wicked Part 1, she learns that he and Madame Morrible are responsible for the cruelty towards animals. This reveals an Elphaba's reaction is to set up the central storyline in Wicked Part 2. The young woman refuses to work with her former adults to harm the animals, stealing the Gamric and break out on her own. However, Glinda decided she can have a better impact by compiling with the system. Their opposite approaches set up the adversarial relationship between the best friend in the second half of the 2 part Wicked movie. Their positive relationship throughout Wicked Part 1 will create cognitive dissonance for the pair going into the first film. Unfortunately, Elphaba will struggle to find support from others in her desire to expose the wizard. At the end of Wicked Part 1, Madame Morrible takes preemptive steps to discredit the witch if she tries to speak out, spreading disinformation to the citizens of Oz. This sets her up to become the villain of the story in Wicked Part 2, even if she is morally in the right. Elphaba and Galinda's story is Wicked 2 based on the book and musical. After defying gravity, Alpha flies around helping animals, which is mentioned in the Broadway musical dialogue rather than shown. That matches up with her Wicked booked story, where she becomes a secret animal activist plotting against the wizards. Wicked Part 2 will certainly have her help the animals, potentially Shohan, as part of the animal resistance group Dr. Demon was involved in, which was created for Wicked Part 1. Considering how dark the Wicked book is, it's unlikely the movie will pull any other aspect of the story. While Elphaba is helping the talking animals, Glinda joins the Wizards' administrations, becoming the pretty young figure ahead that others look to for comfort and security. She feels conflicts about Miday's horrible negative statement about Elphaba, but she doesn't stick up for her friend. She arrives and things got worse when Madame Morrible announces their engagement despite them not being engaged based on how loyal the movie was to the musical. As these elements are undoubtedly appear in Wicked Part 2. In anger, Glinda suggests Madame Morrible spread a rumor about Nessero's safety to lower in Elphaba. However, the villain takes it one step further by actually killing the witch sister. Elphaba returned to the Emerald City to beg for her father's help with going against the wizard, only to learn that her sister took over as the governor of Mushkland after their father's death. After a tense scene which involves Bok becoming the Tin Man, her sister refuses to help and Elphaba leaves to free the flying monkeys. She is caught by the wizard Pharaoh and Glinda, but Pharaoh helps her escape. This drives a wedge between Glinda and Elphaba. In anger, Glinda suggests Madame Morrible spread a rumor about Nessero's substitute lore in Elphaba. However, the villain takes it one step further by actually killing the witch's sister. After the death, Glinda and Elphaba meet again, with the latter being upset that the farmer gave Dorothy Nessero's shoes. Elphaba gets away because of Pharaoh, who is then hurt. However, she turns Pharaoh into the scarecrow to keep him alive. The musical jump forward to Elphaba is Giamo, who, with Dorothy captures Glinda, comes to the castle pleading for her friend to let the little girl go. Elphaba decided to surrender and gives Glinda the Grimri. Glinda hides when the crowd comes. In the books, Dorothy kills Elphaba, mirroring the climactic moment at the end of Wizard of the Oz. However, the musical has Elphaba fake her death and escape with Pharaoh as the scarecrow, a change that Wicked Part 2 will undoubtedly follow. What else will happen in Wicked 2 based on the book and musical? While the Wicked musical focuses heavily on the two main characters, the show still includes subplots involving Nesseros, Bog, Madame Morrible, and the Wizard. As mentioned, Nesseros takes over the job as the governor of Mushkil Land. She keeps Bog as her servant, though she tries to force him to love her when she cannot keep him under the control. Nesseros removes the rights of the Munchkin to prevent him from leaving. However, he tries to flee after Elphaba spills Nessero's shoes, allowing her to walk. Nessa gets angry and tries to cast a love spell. When she reads the words incorrectly, his heart shrinks and Elphaba must turn him into the Tin Man to keep him alive. Ultimately, Nesseros becomes the Wizard of the Oz character, the Wicked Witch of the East, defying when Madame Morrible drops a house on top of her. Bog blames Elphaba for everything and relies the angry mob to kill her. When they catches Elphaba trying to free the flying monkeys, the offers her a chance to join him again, promising that she will not have to keep running and hiding. Madame Morrible becomes more overt with her evilness throughout the musical, is still ambiguous about whether she is the true villain or whether she is acting on behalf of the wizard. She continues to speculates about Elphaba and eventually decided to kill Nassaros, allure to the Wicked Witch of the West out. a decision that should appear in the second half of the film. In the last moments of the Wicked musical, Glinda has the guards arrest Madame Morrible for the murder, a decision that might mirror in Wicked Part 2. Lastly, the wizard continued to be a terrible person who is trying to maintain his power when he catches Elphaba trying to free the flying monkeys. He offers her a chance to join him again, promising that she will not have to keep running and hiding. However, she discovered that the wizard kept Dr. Dillman captive and took away his speech, which causes her to reject him. The wizard is not shown again until the final moment of the musical when he learns that Elphaba is his daughter, a devastating reveal that should take place in Wicked Part 2. The character is then banished from Oz by Galinda, leaving on his hot air balloon because A-list actor Jeff Goldblum is the wizard in Wicked. The second half of the story might increase the number of scenes from the character. However, his general arc should remain the same as the Broadway musical. Wicked ending explained. Does Elphaba become the Wicked Witch of the West? It's taken years and road that was more rocky than smooth and definitely not made out of yellow bricks, but Wicked has made it to the big screen. Director Jon M brings the beloved musical to life thanks in no small part to the powerhouse performance from Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba. Erivo is also joined by all-star cast including Ariana Grande as the future Good Witch of the North, Glinda, Jonathan Bailey as Winky, Prince Pharaoh, Tigler, the object of both Glinda and Elphaba's affection, Miguel Yo as the sorceress, Madame Maribel, and Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz. Wicked is also unique among movies musicals because of a two-part structure. Many Wicked fans question how that would work, especially given Part 1's staggering runtime. Chu previously stated that he felt a two-part structure would allow him to fully do justice to Wicked's story, and he managed to succeed. But where does the first part of Wicked end and where does it leave its characters? Wicked shines a light on Elphaba's teenage years and her time at Schwartz University. Much of it takes place at Schwartz University, where Elphaba is accepted by Madame Morrible after an altercation involving her half-sister Nessoros. But this means she has to room with Glinda, who was known as Galinda back then. Elphaba spends her days learning magic under Madame Morrible's tutelage while battling Herz and Galinda. But the two ultimately become friends during a dance where Galinda is the only one brave enough to dance with Elphaba after she sees how one of her pranks affects her roommate. Said pranks involves a hate that will become very important in Elphaba's future. Prior to Galinda and Elphaba's friendship, each has a major upheaval in their lives. For Galinda, it's the arrival of Pharaoh. She eventually starts dating him after his display of bravado in She's library and convinces the Munchkin Bog to take Nessoros to the dance. Despite Bog only having eyes for Galinda herself, Elphaba's plot is far more serious as she learns from her history professor, Dr. Dillman, that someone is caging Oz animals, resulting in them losing the ability to speak. Later, Dillman is removed from his teaching position at Shiz, leading to one of Elphaba's biggest display of magic, but it will not be her last. Elphaba learned the truth about Oz in Wicked Part 1. Elphaba's skill with magic eventually lead to her receiving an invitation from none other than the Wizard of Oz himself, and she winds up asking Galinda, who changes her name to Glinda as an homage to Dillman, to take along with her to the Amberland City. There, the two friends meet the wizard in the flesh and also learn that Madame Morrible is working closely with him. Morrible wants Elphaba to read the Grammy, an ancient book of magic, and she ends up casting a spell on one of the wizard's monkey guard, accidentally giving him wings, which then spreads to the rest of the guards. Things take a horrible turn when Elphaba learns that the wizard is the one behind the subjection of Oz animal